Hello listeners, Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
Welcome to Missing in Canada, an ongoing series by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello listeners and welcome to Missing in Canada, an ongoing series by the Nighttime Podcast that explores the stories and circumstances of Canadian missing person cases. In this episode, we're going to keep our focus on the search for Katrina Blagdon. If you recall, in last week's episode, Katrina was last seen on New Year's Eve 2021 by her boyfriend. The couple spent the evening together playing board games and without anything exceptional taking place. Well, until the next morning, on New Year's Day, when he woke up, he claimed she was gone. In this episode, we're going to look at Katrina's story again, but from an altogether more painful vantage point. Our guest is Katrina's closest friend and one of her fiercest supporters. Since Katrina's disappearance, Holly Decoste has dedicated every waking moment to finding her missing best friend, and tonight she's going to tell us all about it. So let's get into it. Tonight, in this episode of Nighttime, we'll be joined by Holly Decoste for a discussion surrounding the disappearance of Katrina Blagdon. I've seen you refer to her in Facebook posts as like a sister, as a best friend. Tell me a bit about like what your relationship's like.
Trina, I've known Trina since junior high. We've always been inseparable since then. Best friends, sisters for sure. We've always been in each other's lives, supporting each other. Mm-hmm. She's definitely like a sister to me.
Yeah, and when you say supporting each other, I know from what I know about her story, I know she had suffered a bit with PTSD after the military. When you say supporting each other, would you have been supporting her in that way as well, like as she was dealing with that?
Mm-hmm. Mental health is everywhere. Like, people deal with mental health on a regular, but Trina has been to Afghanistan. Like, she's seen a lot in her life, and she's given a lot in her life. And so, yeah, I totally supported her with everything, her mental health.
Yeah. And you mentioned knowing her since high school. Let's back up to that. Do you remember meeting her? Like, how did you meet her, and what drew you together?
I think that just because she's so honest, and she just loves people for who they are and doesn't judge people, and I really flock to people like that, those kind of energies, and we just clicked right away.
And you met like you went to the same high school, and
yeah,
okay,
yeah, we did.
I said in my prior episode that I thought she was from Glace Bay. That's not the case. Tell me about like where you're from and what it's like there, where you met her back in high school.
Yeah, so she grew up she's not originally from Cape Breton. She's from like Halifax Regional Municipality area. Mm-hmm. But then she moved down when she was kind of in junior high-ish time, and Elmadam. So Elmadam is a little island off of Cape Breton, and she grew up in West Ayrshire area.
Okay. So she would have been from, if you come from that, I know enough about Elmadam to know that if you left, Halifax area and moved there, you'd be moving to like rural Nova Scotia. Did she
rural?
Do you remember like when you met her back then, did she stand out as like the city kid who came down to Elmadam?
She was really shy. But Trina was always shy, and she's very unique, but she still didn't care what people thought, and she was always helping people.
Okay. And so you've been close since, back high school was probably a few years ago.
Yeah.
Tell me about as she gets into, the military, she serves in Afghanistan. What was your relationship like during this period as she's, coming and going from Canada, I guess, and dealing with life as a touring military member? What was that like?
Yeah. So she went to, right out of high school, she got into the Army, and she went to, I think it's Quebec for the basic training. And she, like, we didn't talk for months because she was gone, and she's so strong, that woman. Oh my God. The things that she did to just went into the military, and she's amazing. Anyway, she did all of that, and then she decided to, serve her country and go to Afghanistan. But we always stayed close. When she was in Afghanistan, we didn't talk as much. She had really young kids at the time. Her mom was helping her with that when she was in Afghanistan.
That must have been nuts for her. I'm a father of 2 kids, but when my kids were young, it's like I had a hard time going to work for the
I
afternoon,
know.
let alone to Afghanistan and risking my life.
I know. And so she did that, and she had friends that she's lost in Afghanistan. So can you imagine, dealing with that? But then she came back from all of that.
Yeah.
And she deserved this amazing life in Cape Breton that she wanted, and she's not getting it right now. So it's so sad.
And when she came back from Afghanistan, she stayed in Ontario for a number of years after being back. Am I getting the timeline right? Like probably the last 5 or so years she would have been.
She did.
And she was out of the
She went to
military.
Afghanistan, but she was posted to Nova Scotia for a little bit in between that.
Okay.
So she moved to Greenwood. She was posted there for a little while, and we got to hang out. And then she met a guy that they really clicked, and they were going to try to make a go at it. This wasn't the person that she's with currently. And she moved to St. Catharines for him.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't work out.
And it didn't work out, but she stuck around a little bit after.
Yeah, she stuck around. She's tried to make kind of a life at it. Like, she had family in Petawawa, so that wasn't that far.
And Petawawa is known as kind of like a military spot. Is Trina's family, like, does she have like a military family, or is what led her in that direction?
Her oldest sister is military.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking it's just, I don't know a lot of people who right out of high school went into the military.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm not really sure why she did it right out of high school. I think that her grandfather was also military.
Okay. It's just the route she took. And now, so when she's in St. Catharines over the last several years, you're here in Nova Scotia, Ilmadam and St. Catharines, there's a bit of space between them. Talk to me a bit about your relationship over the last, several years that she was living there. Like, how did you connect?
With COVID, how awful is COVID? COVID's so awful, right?
Yeah, it is.
But before that, we would travel. We went on an ultimate best friend trip to Disney World. We were seriously like sisters. We go everywhere together. We plan trips. We were supposed to go to Disney this month together with our family.
Oh.
So we had to cancel that, and it's crazy. It's crazy that she's not here anymore.
Yeah, and she I understand she has 2, I believe, high school, teenage age children. I'm assuming you know her children well. Talk to me a bit about her connection with her children, and maybe seeing her, raise these kids and have that part of her life, unfold over the last 13,
she was
15
an
years.
amazing mother, and she's still she's always was amazing mother. She loved her children so much, and their dad right now is taking care of them, and he's doing such a good job, but they're having a hard time. I mean, their mother went missing. It's awful. This is just tearing people apart. Not knowing where she is or what happened, it's really hard.
So I want to move into kind of the time right around New Year's, when 3 months ago when she was last seen. You say you talk to her almost every day. Do you remember?
Every day.
Maybe give me an idea of leading up to New Year's Eve. Friends are in touch, talking. What's going on tonight. Do you remember talking to her? Before New Year's Eve about what her plan was or what she was up to?
Yep. She texted me. We texted that day. We texted right up until her phone was turned off that day. So I know exactly what she was up to. I was working that day, so I was pretty busy, but she texted me, and she was just saying oh, I'm just going to relax tonight and whatever. But if she went to bed at 12:30, she didn't text me. So that's really strange.
Mm-hmm. So,
So that didn't make sense to me.
so like you kind of had that kind of communication where you're just always texting back and forth.
Always messaging each other. Like we
Mm-hmm.
talked all the time. We were really supportive to each other because, you know, we built each other up. We were just those people together. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were best friends.
In her saying, it's New Year's Eve, I'm going to have a quiet night at home. Would that have been out of character for her? Was she like the type that was like out socially, or would it be normal for her to be like, I'm chilling at home tonight?
I think that, I mean, a chilling at home tonight is fine. I totally think that that would have been fine, but I don't think that she left in the morning, like that kind of whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember how, like, throughout the evening, because we'll get to kind of the next day, but throughout the evening, do you recall, like, how your communication with her stopped? Like, do you remember how the back and forth messaging ended?
Yes. That day we talked, she was messaging me saying, like, you know, what am I going to wear tonight? My house coat. Like, it was just, we were being silly about it. And she was just telling me, like, you know, they were going to go out to eat and they were just going to relax at home. That's what I thought they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that made sense to me, even that situation, but it's just the facts don't really add up. So.
Mm-hmm. And then eventually, as this evening goes on, you just the communication just ends. You just don't get a message back, and you go about your night or something.
That was it. So what happened was I was working, and then I ended up working late. I came home, and we messaged each other around supper.
Mm-hmm.
But I fell asleep on the couch because I was exhausted. I shot a wedding, and then the next day I woke up and I messaged her, and she never messaged me back.
Okay.
And that, like, in the morning, we message each other every morning saying, hey, like, it's going to be an amazing day. And, you know, I miss you so much. And we usually send each other selfies and stuff. Like, we talk a lot. Like,
Yeah.
And when she didn't message me, I knew something was wrong. So I kept messaging her. And then around it was actually 3:00 when I messaged her boyfriend.
Okay, so you were the one who messaged her boyfriend, which is
Yeah.
the way I understand it happening is that, and I didn't know until today that you were the one involved, but the way I understood it was Trina's sister Kelly connected with a friend of Trina's, which is you. The friend of Trina, you, contacted the boyfriend because I think Kelly, Trina's older sister, didn't know him. Am I following that right? Is that what led to you to write to him rather than anyone else?
I'm the only one that really talked to him or met him,
Mm-hmm.
really.
Okay.
So I talked to Trina regularly. I was trying to figure out if she was, like, what was going on. Once I talked to her boyfriend, that's when I called her sister.
Okay. And you said, like, that morning on New Year's Day when you messaged her and didn't get a response, you felt something was up. It was that dramatic. Like, I guess if you're in touch regularly, but I just think
It was definitely because I woke up and I knew, why didn't she text me that night? Like, why didn't she text me Happy New Year if she was up till 12:30? Like, there's no way she didn't text me that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It just didn't make sense. And then the next morning when I woke up and I didn't see any messages from her and I messaged her and she didn't message me back, the whole day I was just like, there's something, this is strange. And then I just messaged him and I said, hey, what happened? Is there something wrong with Trina? Why isn't she messaging me?
And was this like a text or a Facebook message?
It was a Facebook message.
Mm-hmm. And I believe you're the first one to communicate with him, that
Mm-hmm.
day. What was his response to you?
He said, I woke up at 8 a.m. and she wasn't here. Mm-hmm. And I reacted like, what do you mean? Like, I was yelling, capitalized. Like, I was like, what? Like, where is she? Did you look for her? Like, what? Did she tell you she was going somewhere? Did she take Denver, her dog? Like, her dog was like a big deal to her. Like, there's no way she wouldn't have took that dog. I didn't understand anything. And he was just like, yeah, she's just not here. And I said, did you report it to the police? Like, what's going on? I was in shock. I called her sister. I asked her if she talked to her, and she said no. And so then we were both really upset. And then my husband's a sheriff, and we were talking. And so then we were just like, let's call the police.
Wow. So it's that quick. And as soon as you hear...
Like, it was that quick that I was just like, we knew something was wrong. Like, we just felt something was wrong.
In hearing like the idea that he wakes up and she's not there,
Yeah.
Trina's not, everything I've read is she's not the type that she just like kind of go off or something. Like, it's like immediately you're like, yeah, something bad is up.
I just don't understand the whole not taking her purse, not taking like her dog. Like, why did she leave without anything? Like, I don't understand that.
My understanding is the only thing that was missing would have been her phone.
Mm-hmm. It was. And she had 2 of them, and they're both missing.
Okay. So this back and forth with her boyfriend, it seems like it doesn't go very far, because your next step, as you described, is talking to your husband and making a report. So I guess your initial communication with him didn't really elaborate, like, what did you do last night? You know, when did you last see her? It was just...
So I did. Oh, it elaborated. We talked for about a half hour, maybe back and forth. And I said, what did you do? What happened? And he just said he woke up and she was not there. Like, that's what he told me, and I was just like, and then I tried to get a hold of him for about 3 hours straight, trying to get a hold of him, and he didn't message me back. And then finally we called in a wellness check, and the police were there, and they called my husband because they were at her house, and they were like, nobody's here, and the dog's freaking out. And we were like, oh my God. So I messaged him, and he just said, oh, I'm at my mom's, I'll be right there. That's what he said. And that was like 5 hours later. It didn't make any sense, man.
Mm-hmm. So you knew him or know him enough to have connected with him on Facebook and write him and get a response. What was your, like, up until, I'm sure things have changed since, but what was your relationship like with him? Was it just kind of a passive thing where, you'd be talking to Trina and she'd mention him, or did you actually socialize with him as well?
I met him. We went up in November, my husband and I, to visit Trina, and we stayed and we got to meet him and all of that. They weren't that serious. That's what I think of the situation. Like, they were on again, off again. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that serious.
Mm-hmm. But aside from it not being serious and the on again, off again, was there anything about the relationship that like concerned you, or made like any red flags or anything that made you worry about her with him, or anything that made him stand out in any way?
Yeah, a few things. She didn't seem like she was really happy with him, but I have to support her in whatever she wanted. Like, she was my best friend. I wasn't going to just, I don't know. It's really hard, like, thinking about it, because, I don't think he was 100% what she wanted, but if you ever met her, you'd know that she wants to help everybody. So that's just her personality, and she'd stick with things like trying to make them better and trying to make people happy, and that was her personality.
Do you know, and I don't want to get too personal about him, but do you know how they met, Katrina and him?
Yeah.
Okay.
They met through a friend. They were introduced through a friend, and also I believe that they played baseball together.
Okay. So Neil, that day the wellness check happens. There's no one home. You find out he's at his mom's. When do the police actually get involved as far as like it being a missing persons case? Do you remember like how that developed?
So the police called us that night when they were at his house, and my husband was talking to them, and he showed up. when they were there.
Okay.
'Cause I called him. His mom must live really close or something. Anyway, yeah, so they talked to him and he was just like, yeah, she was missed. I woke up, and this has been the story since the beginning, and it hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
this is what they have, and like we need the public to like come forward. There's no way that nobody saw nothing.
Mm-hmm. You left Nova Scotia to be involved in the search for a
Oh
period
yeah.
of time because you like when this happens to your best friend, like a
Uh,
sister, you leave your work and you head right out there. When did you arrive? Like how long after New Year's Day?
the 6th. We
Okay.
left we when it happened, we weren't sure if she was just, if they got in a fight or what happened. Like we didn't know if she left, she wanted to be alone. Like we looking everywhere for this girl and
Mm-hmm.
calling every help place and everything just in case. And we looked everywhere. And when we couldn't find her, I was just like, we got to go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't sit here and like think about what could be happening. Like, it was awful. So my husband took time off work and we drove to Ontario
Right.
straight from here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But by the time you get up there, 6 days in, just as you said, like the things like the hospital, the police station, like if she was anywhere where it would take a day or
Exactly.
two to find her, she would have surfaced. So by then, by the time you get there, it's pretty like a pretty desperate search. Tell me a bit about like what when you get there. I'm sure you're meeting with her family and whatnot. What exactly are you doing while you're there in those first few days to search for her?
We arrived and we searched. We drove 25 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and then we didn't even sleep, and we seriously drove right there, and we just started right from her house. We just started right from her house. We walked down the street. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And we like asked neighbors, we knocked on doors and asked everybody if they saw anything, because there's no way if she left, like you should see the area that she lives in. It's a city. Like, so we went to people's houses, and then we took off. We searched everywhere. We went to 12 Mile. We searched that. We went everywhere. We went into like homeless places that like people were living in camps, and we like showed her picture to see if anybody saw her. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was pretty desperate. We were pretty desperate.
In this, I'm assuming is mainly like yourself and like her family, like her sister and parents. Is that like me?
It was me and my husband at this point, just us. But her family was searching as well, like at
Mm-hmm.
different places. Her family had an Airbnb, and my husband and I rented a hotel like really close to where she lived. So we were just doing our own thing because I'm an avid hiker and we're pretty in shape. So we were doing as much as we could in the time we were there.
Mm-hmm. In St. Catharines, other than her having her boyfriend there, did she have, as far as you know, like a lot of like friends or like a social
Oh my
circle there?
God. Like Trina was like a social butterfly. Like
Mm-hmm.
she loved to dance and she loved to make people happy. Like she was very social.
Mm-hmm. And I see online now there's referring to themselves as Trina's army. She has like a legion of people searching
Oh
for
my
her.
God.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I'm seriously like, I talked, like, so many people messaged me and so many people care about her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's unbelievable how
Mm-hmm.
many people she's touched.
Mm-hmm. And this the actual searching, as far as I know, is there is still like on the ground searching. So I'm assuming
Yeah.
where she knows so many people there. Like what like present day now, 3 months in, what
Yeah.
kind of searching takes place?
Oh my God. Like, people are still searching, but, we just, like, they have a private group now where people that just want to search, they go to that group and then they set up like a spot and they meet them and then they make a game plan. But we've searched so many places, and if the places that we've searched and the places that Trina would have went or for a walk or whatever is so popular, like, and people are everywhere. Like, I don't like, these places are like checked and checked and checked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like
Like,
it's not like this nature trail
no,
in the middle of the woods. There'd be a park
no,
in St. Catharines.
it's not like you're in Cape Breton or Nova Scotia where like these places are remote. No, like these places are like, a lot of places, like people are there all the time. Like every time we checked places, there was people everywhere.
And there, and as far as as far as official sightings go, she's last seen at that sub shop,
Yeah.
the evening of New Year's Eve. But there's often reference to like an unconfirmed sighting of her. I think the next day, I don't know the intersection or the streets, but is there
Yeah.
any credible tip or anything that came in?
No, like the last confirmed sighting of Trina is at that sub shop. I think that is key because I think her phone didn't work after that. Like, what happened after the sub shop? That's my plea to people is look at your
Dash cam.
cameras and your dash cams and all of that, because like that is an important time. I think that 6 p.m. New Year's Eve, what happened after that is what we need to look at.
I don't know if anyone in her family or you has seen this video of from the CCTV of her leaving the sub shop. Have you seen images or anything from it?
We've asked detectives over like about that specifically, and they've told us that it's like the footage is definitely her. She was definitely at the sub shop, and that nobody has to see it because it was really good footage.
Okay.
That's what we were told.
That's it. Okay. But what I know, and you can correct me if you know something different, but my understanding is that it's her boyfriend driving and her in the passenger seat in her like green SUV or Jeep.
She has a Jeep. It's a Jeep, yeah. And it's like apple green. It's very distinct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this means anything, but what I've read is that she was in the passenger seat. Would that be weird for her to not be the one driving, or? I guess there could be a million reasons why. Okay.
Not really. Like, I mean, I don't think that that's weird.
And that's in another part of this. I talked about this in the prior episode I did where the initial like, kind of missing persons posters and such. And I think when I first saw news about her being missing, it made me think that her Jeep was also missing with her, but that's not the case. It's just they weren't able to.
It's really confusing because we wanted the Jeep to be in the poster because it's so distinct.
Yeah, that if someone saw the Jeep,
boyfriend is like still driving the Jeep. So
to this day. Okay, I'm not going to ask if that's weird because I can read body language in looking at you. And I'm sure you're not involved in this, but I understand there seems to be something kind of happening within the family and him about what's going to happen with her stuff and whether or not he should have access to the Jeep and her house. Do you know where that stands today?
I know that he still has her Jeep and her house, and that's still how it stands right now.
Was he and before she went missing, did he live with her or just stay with her? Like, was that like his house?
On and off.
Okay. 6 days after your best friend, your sister, is missing, you head out there, you join in the search. During the entire time searching, was there any kind of promising time or anything that made you think like, okay, we're getting close? Like, was there any developments despite, all the effort everyone was putting
in? Not really. It was pretty awful. Like it was freezing.
Yeah.
Like, because we drove up in snowstorms.
Jeez.
And we were just out in the cold looking for her as much as we could, hoping that I didn't find her. But I mean, at this point, I just want to find her.
And I know you're back in Nova Scotia now. When did you, like, how long were you in St. Catharines until you had to come home?
We were there probably for 5 days, and then my husband went back with a PI. We hired a PI.
Oh,
So.
your husband went back to St. Catharines?
Yeah, my
Okay.
husband went back with a PI.
Okay. Um, in those 5 days that you're there, I'm sure it was a whirlwind, but what was it like actually leaving? Like that must have been kind of.
It was really hard. Yeah. The drive back was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know that, well, I shouldn't say I know, but I've read that she was really active on social media. Um,
Yeah.
and of course, like it kind of goes without saying, but all that just went cold. Like there's no, I know,
No.
I've heard that the phones, the bank account,
I call her every day still, like everything went cold. Nothing. Nothing at all.
um, in and I'm assuming nothing like this has ever like there's never been a time where she went kind of off the grid and you
No.
haven't.
Trina was like, we talked on December the 29th, and she was planning on moving home, and she was going to stay with me. Like, she was going to sell her house and in St. Catharines, and she was moving in with us, well, until she found like the right house for her around where we lived. We had
Okay.
so many plans. Like,
Yeah.
it was unbelievable.
And I had gotten that wrong where I thought it was, for whatever reason, I thought it was Glace Bay that she was from and she was moving back to, but it's actually Ilmadam,
Yeah.
which is a much nicer place than Glace Bay, I
Yeah.
will say.
Actually, yeah.
But so you had talked to her about this plan. I didn't know how like concrete her plan to like sell the house and move home. Like what was she planning?
She was planning on selling her house and moving home. Like
And
March, like this month, we were planning on like her coming up and staying with us, and we were gonna like look for a house. We were looking at houses and everything. Like it was pretty legit.
what was bringing her back? Like change of scenery, wanting to get home? Like why was she planning to move
Yeah.
back?
Trina always wanted to be home. Like she loves Nova Scotia. She has so many friends here, and she loves the ocean. Like she loves hiking. Like we were, and like we had planned our retirement together. Me and Trina. It's pretty sad, but we definitely had plans.
I don't. Well, this probably did come up, but if it had gone according to plan, she'd be coming down to Nova Scotia around now. Was her plan to bring the boyfriend with her?
Well, she gave him the option.
Okay. Now I just want to get into some kind of ideas of what could have happened. We're now 3 months into it. Let me start with this. Like how you have said already, like I just want to find her at this point.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Like are you thinking that do you have hope that she's going to be found in
I always have hope for her. Like she deserves that.
Mhm.
But it's hard. It's really hard to know that. Like, why wouldn't she contact anybody? Like, I don't know.
And even if she even if she was say getting away from him or just stressed out and needed getting away or something, you would likely be the one she would turn to.
She would probably be here. Like, I don't know. It's just the weirdest situation. I don't understand it.
At this point, just based on what I'm perceiving from being, online and following Trina's story it seems like there are certainly some kind of divides amongst the people close to her, specifically her boyfriend and other members of the family. Are you in touch with him at all, or is that?
I will talk to anybody. Like, I will talk to the devil himself if they're going to give me any information about Trina. Like, anybody that wants to talk to me, I will talk to. And that is exactly how I'm going to be until this is all over. I don't know what happened, but anybody that can help me, I'm going to talk to them. So, yes, I talk to everybody.
All right, do you still have any kind of connection with him?
Yes. Like I still talk to him if he'll talk to me. I message him and I message him and he'll say like, "Did you hear anything?" Like, I don't know what happened. So I'm not I'm going to talk to anybody that's going to help me try to find her.
Yeah.
At this point.
The only reason I ask is I know a lot of people who talk about Trina's story online will have a lot of questions about him, and I don't know, people are suspicious of his side of the story.
I think that he should just talk. If he has nothing to hide, like, why isn't he making any statements or anything? I don't understand that, but I think he should do that if he feels like if he didn't do anything. Like,
okay.
I don't know.
I know her Facebook, the Facebook group dedicated to the search. You're very active in there, and like I said earlier, there's a self-described army of people looking for her.
Oh my God!
Tell me a bit about the social media aspect of it. Like, what are people doing?
Like her army friends. Like, there's a girl. Her name's Randy and Caroline. There's so many people. Tracy and Shelley Forgeron and Sherry Hearn and all of these friends of hers that are just, every day we'll call places and we'll try to like put it out there and post, and I try to add myself to every group at St. Catherine's and try to share her poster as much as I can. Like, we're trying everything we can, and some of her friends from the military are gonna go up in a couple weeks and do some searching. We're never gonna give up. We're never gonna give up until we find her.
For people who are listening, who maybe they're handy to St. Catherine's or maybe they're somewhere else in the world, what can people do to help advocate for her and to help you and the others searching for her?
I think sharing her picture and her poster. Like, if you're close to St. Catherine's, if you can search, if you're available to do that, we need everybody. Tips are so important. If you live close to any of those areas, the sub place was called, what was the sub? Firehouse Subs in St. Catherine's. So that's the last known location of her at around 6 p.m. the night before. So Christmas or New Year's Eve.
And my understanding is her phone, shortly after that appearance at the sub shop, where she saw on video, her phone just seems to be turned off after that. Is
right after that. It just, there's nothing after that. So I don't know. That's what I'm stuck on. I feel like something happened after that. I don't know what happened, but something. And we need to figure that out. We need to find her. She deserves to be found regardless of anything. If she's being held captive or whatever it is, we need to find her regardless.
I want to thank you for joining Holly and I for our discussion surrounding the disappearance of Katrina Blagdon. For those listening who want to become more involved in Katrina's story and the search for her, I've added links to the episode description for some resources. Most significantly, I recommend you join the very active Facebook group maintained by Katrina's family and loved ones. As you heard Holly describe, they want and they need all the help they can get. And with that, I'll wrap up this episode, but before we part, I want to give some thanks. First, a big thank you to Holly for sharing an evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. I'd also like to thank Monty Datta for contributing the music for this show. It's a piece called Noir, Toyko. And lastly, but most importantly, I have a massive thank you to everyone who listens to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, the show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. But with that said, keeping the show alive is and has always been an uphill battle. So if you want to help take a bit of weight off the show's back, make sure you're listening on the premium feed. Not only does it make the show possible, the premium feed will give you more of each topic than you find here on the free feed, as I'm adding exclusive content regularly. So for about the price of a cup of coffee, give the show a hand and give yourself more of it at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And on the topic of the premium feed, let me thank the newest subscribers: Nathan, Rose, Katie Narai, and Marg. Thank you for going premium. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can give me a big hand by sharing this episode on social media and letting like-minded friends know what we're doing here. If you have any story ideas, if you want to give feedback on the show, or if you'd like to contribute a voice memo, you can do that at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. Now until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.